Hi guys, welcome back. My name is Vagu and lots of people are asking me to make a video in English. So I thought maybe I can make a one podcast for you guys. So here we are. If you're new to candle making, maybe you have been checking out on the Facebook groups or watching every YouTube videos or Googling everything. But you just can't get over the first big snack. Well, it is that moment that lots of people realize there are a little bit more than this candle making game. Then it just seems like you can just melt a wax, add fragrance oil, pour into jar and call it good. But there are more levels to this thing. So in today's episode, I'm going to break down 6 of the most common candle making pitfalls that beginners fall into and how you can overcome from them, because I believe that this is what it takes to get the next level. There are lots of candle makers that end up quitting because of one or more of these reasons. So let's dive into it. Now the first pitfall is not knowing how much fragrance oil to use. This is super common question because using the wrong amount of fragrance oil, you just don't know how much to use when you first started getting into it. Most wax can hold between 3 to 12%. Some even go higher as like 15% of fragrance oil by weight. In fact, if you just need to quick rule of the thumb, I suggest using 1 ounce of fragrance oil for every 1 pound of wax. Or if you're using the metric system, that's 28 gram of fragrance oil for 454 gram of wax. It's if you don't want to do any math at all, just take your wax, multiply by 0.0625. This will give you roughly 6% of fragrance load, which most wax can handle. But then again, depends on some people. I personally use 10% because I use blend of wax. So it's up to you. But if you don't want to do lots of math, this is the best rule. The other thing about the fragrance oil is you have to measure by weight, and this means ounce or gram, but not by fluid ounce. Fluid ounce is actually a measurement of volume, how much space something takes up. We are talking about weight. So you are going to need a kitchen scale, something that can measure grams or something that can measure ounces. The last note I want to say about fragrance oil is that adding more fragrance oil does not necessarily give you a better hot throw. In fact, you can think of candle as a delivery system for the scent and the fragrance oil as the fuel. Adding more fuel does not necessarily make it stronger throw and can actually complicate lots of things. The second pitfall I see lots of candle maker fall into is using the exact same wick for every single centuries. Every single using the same wick for every single candle that they make. Now this is a huge mistake because wicks are very specific. In fact, the wick play the most important role in the candle. That is, it manages the balance of combustion with how much fuel come up the wick, and it's how it burns at the top. It manages the temperature of the wax and manage the melt pool. Now fragrance oil impact the wick in a few different ways. The first is it's changing the composition of the blend. The second thing that matter about fragrance oil its relationship with the wax. Not every fragrance oil works with every wax. Some website will even tell you for soya wax this fragrance oil works well, or for soya wax this fragrance oil does not work well. So the relationship between the fragrance oil and the wax is something you really have to pay attention to. So why does this matter for the wick size? Well, wick need to accommodate both activities, and just changing the fragrance oil a little bit can change the exactly what you need for a wick by the significant amount. It can change the size, you can even change the series, the exact type of wick that you are using. So even if you build a successful candle with one wick, changing your fragrance oil load by more than 1% or just changing the fragrance oil at all means you should start completely over with your wick testing to figure out what works. The third pitfall that candle makers fall into is burning their candle before curing their candle. Now, patience is one burning before curing of the most important skill set for a candle makers, and curing is one of the biggest reason for that. Now, what is curing? Curing is the act of the candle hardening up or cooling. It doesn't just cool. It also spread out the fragrance oil throughout the blend a little more. Now, a lot of people will burn their candle like right away. Like I have done it too. I'm super excited for my candle and burning it after a day, 2 days or 3 days, and it smells fine. But then a week later, it actually burns a little bit differently. And the reason is this: the longer you cure your candle, depending on the wax, the more thermal energy will be required from the wick to melt the wax. This matters because of safety, right? The temperature of the flame at the top of the wick is going to impact the rate at which the wax melts and the temperature it's going to get into it. If you try to burn your candle 6 hours after you pour it, the wax is going to be super soft. It's going to melt really easy. You'll have really a deep melt pool, and you may have temperature that get far out of control for what safety testing requires. Now, just because you burn it after 24 hours or 74 hours and you'll get a strong scent through doesn't mean that candle is ready for the market. Curing is important because it makes sure that your wick is sized for what the candle will look like a week or 2 weeks after it's poured, not just what it look like after 24 hours. And the difference can be substantial. With soya wax, you may be completely overwick if you are burn it in 24 hours. If you wait for 2 weeks, you may find that the same wick is perfect, or vice versa. You may find wick that works well for your burning it after 3 or 4 days, but then a week later that wick may be too small. It might not be burning enough. You may have ended up turning. Now we are going to talk about testing a little bit, but curing, that period of time is really critical to get an honest look at what that candle safety is going to be, not just the performance. Remember, performance is secondary, safety is number one.
And if you are curious about what I recommended for rough curing time for your wax type, this is the chart here. You can take a look, screenshot, and whatever you need to do it, you can save it for later.
Number 4 is using the wrong materials. The internet has tons of candle making tutorials, and they are not all great. Some of them are recommending practice that are absolutely unsafe, or they are cool, but they don't work in reality. And I'm talking about material that will clog your wick or be fire hazard, or actually put you at risk for your container exploding if things go really bad, because some of things are just not meant to handle the heat. So I'm going to run through a quick list. Crayons are cool. They actually come from paraffin wax, but they contain pigment based material and they will not burn at all. They will clog your wick. Some people are use plastic container. Come on, that's absolutely not okay. Plastic will melt. It's best, especially when you start out, to avoid some of these. So you need to avoid food coloring also. Just like crayons, they won't color your wax. Plastic containers, no, not at all. Thin wall glass jar also, because when candle burns, they produce a heat, or if they receive too much heat, they will explode. Then excessive leaves flammable material. Candle are often shown as a decorative, but they are potentially dangerous. Then glitter is also no, because they will clog your wick. And if nothing else, it's for insurance purpose. Your insurance company may not cover you if something goes sideways when you are off doing one of those Pinterest tutorial that includes some of these questionable practice. So just exercise cautious, look for safety, use your head and be smart. So the 5th point may be little controversial. Some of you may agree, some of you may not, but what I am suggesting is pitfall is starting with too many supplies. Candle making is fun starting with for exercising your creativity, but that same creativity can actually lead to the frustration and burnout. And the problem is that a lot of people get attracted to all these cool new waxes. They get every single fragrance oil. They want to make a candle in every single container they see. And if you are just starting as a hobby, if you are just making candle for fun, no big deal, right? Go ahead and do it. Do whatever experiment you want to do it. But if you're looking because you want, or maybe serious about starting a candle business one day, or you want to build a things at scale, going with too many options can create a problem in output. What I mean is this: if you have too many different combination of things, it is hard to track your outcome and figure out exactly why something is or isn't working. You get lucky on occasion and things work out, but when you have too many different waxes or you are trying out too many containers, you just don't get that consistency, those repetition that allow you to really understand what your craft is doing. And the age-old advice, keep it simple, stupid, is the best advice I can give you when you are first starting out. And that is choose one wax, right? Master that one wax, choose one vessel, just one vessel, one diameter, one material, and stick with that until you figure that out. When you can build that win, that's the foundation which you can take to understand how to move into the another other item or other fragrance oil or other waxes or other container. Because if you are not able to master one, then it's going to be really hard to master that random combination of 30 different things. So keep it simple when you start out. Don't go crazy. Just try to learn candle making and then extend that out into the marketplace for your creativity at that time.
So number 6 is this: testing. The most important part of candle making is proper testing. The reason is that safety and performance cannot be understood until you burn it. A lot of people go around looking for the formula. Hey, just tell me, how do you make the candles?
I can tell you how to make a candle, but your process, your system and your environment may be different than mine, which means you're going to have to make the candle and then test it. So after curing your burn, touch this candle while burn testing covers everything, safety and performance. There's some confusion around wick testing, burn testing, safety testing, performance testing. Believe me, it's almost all the same things. You should always start with the safety test. The safety test tells you what to do with your wick. There's lots of testing. You can do all of these hacks to try to test faster, but at the end of the day, the result is changing your wick or changing your fragrance oil. Now it sounds simple, but it is required lots of patience, lots of due diligence, lots of watching, lots of notes taking. So testing is, if you know how to test right, you're going to be very successful at candle making, because it will allow you to identify how your input affects your outputs. Ultimately, you want your candle to do two things. You want it to burn safely and you want it to perform well. And the second part is little more subjective. Safety is objective. You can say whether or not your safety test passes the industry standard test or whatever other criteria you have to be safety, but it is as simple as that, testing. So if you are beginners and you're not sure what to do, just remember, you make your candle, you test it, you react. Make your candle, you test it and you react. Eventually, when you pass all of your tests, you're good to go and you can do whatever you want with that candle.
That's all I have today. I hope you found something useful, likable, insightful. If you did, leave me a like. If you have any question, leave me comments. I will get to it when I can. Otherwise, I hope you make a beautiful candle. I hope have a great week and I'll see you in the next episode. See ya. Bye-bye.